Hello, my friends. Let's find out what happens in Chapter 11 of Mr. Penguin and the Lost Treasure. Chapter 11, A Peculiar Problem for a Penguin. "But you're a penguin," cried Miss Bones when he told her. "How can you not know how to swim?" "Well, I can sort of paddle about a bit," said Mr. Penguin, his shoulders sagging, "but I wouldn't be very good in all this water here." Again, a vision of being stuck in a rickety old boat on the way back to the frozen south bobbed into Mr. Penguin's mind. Freezing seawater everywhere. Awful. Miss Bones pursed her lips for a moment. "Monty, you'll have to carry them," she said to her brother, who was still staring eagerly at Mr. Penguin. "What about the spider? Can he swim?" "Oh, wonderfully so," beamed Mr. Penguin. "He's like a goldfish. Even without his swimming cap, he's left that at home." Colin flashed a cheerful grin. That was settled then. Colin flexed his legs to get ready to battle the river's current, and Miss Bones gathered herself ready for a dip in the rushing river. They were just about to clamber down the bank to the water when Mr. Penguin spotted something. "Look, a log!" And indeed it was. A large log, more like a big, knobbly tree trunk, was floating toward them. It slowed down to a stop right by their feet. "Perfect," Mr. Penguin cried. "We can sit on this and paddle across the river to the other side. The map says we aren't really that far from the treasure. This will be a shortcut. And we won't get our feet wet," added Colin hopefully. They all tiptoed onto the log and sat down gingerly. The knobbliness made it a bit uncomfortable, especially as it rocked and wobbled in the water. Monty pushed off from the bank, and they went splashing into the river. The current pushed them sideways, but Monty used his enormous hands to paddle, and they slowly started to make their way across to the opposite bank. It was actually rather easy, almost like the log was swimming through the water itself. Miss Bones concentrated on not losing her balance and sitting as ladylike as possible without toppling over into the river and flashing her knickers. Colin skittered to the front to keep a lookout, and Mr. Penguin buried his beak in the treasure map, looking at where they should be going. "Yes," he shouted over the noise of the water. "We're really close to the treasure now. I wonder why this map was telling us to go the long way around instead of crossing the river." Colin tapped him on the knee. "Hang on, Colin," said Mr. Penguin, not looking up from the map. "I'm busy investigating. Once we get to the other side, we'll practically be on top of the treasure." "Colin, I said hang on." Colin had tapped him on the knee again. "Any second now," continued Mr. Penguin, "we'll be able to hop off this log and cut through those plants on the other side, clamber up into this cave, and find the trees." "What is it, Colin? Why do you keep tapping me?" Mr. Penguin finally looked up and glared at his friend. Colin had his pad out. It said, "I don't think this is a log." "Don't be silly, Colin," chuckled Mr. Penguin. "Of course it's a log. What else could it be?" Colin scribbled on his pad. "I think it might be an alligator." He flipped it over to a fresh sheet. "A really big alligator." Mr. Penguin laughed. "Oh, Colin, you really are a silly sausage sometimes." And he turned to Miss Bones, and they both started to giggle. However, a second later, they stopped abruptly at the sight in front of them. An enormous alligator's head had emerged from the water. It looked over its shoulder and grinned, a gigantic, toothy, terrifying grin. And that is the end of Chapter 11.